So there's this saying in the plant community that you've probably heard that goes, first year they sleep, second year they creep, third year they leap. Essentially what this saying is referring to is the growing pattern of plants that we bring into our house. Generally, the first year that you bring a plant into your house, it sleeps. So it's getting used to the conditions of your new house, to new humidity, to new watering and light. And during that period, there's not a whole lot of growth. It might have some incremental growth, but it may not be, incredible growth. In the second year, it creeps, which alludes to the fact that after it's gotten used to all of these new conditions, your plant will grow a little bit more. It'll creep along in that growth. Third year alludes to the fact that your plant has been established for 2 years now. It's gotten used to the growing conditions that it's in, so now is its chance to fully grow because, it's in an environment that it knows and understands. And so it can grow to its max potential, whatever that is. Just like most sayings, this saying is not, 100% accurate. You could have something like a pothos, which will leap in growth within a few weeks after buying it. Or you could have something like a pothos enjoy that does absolutely nothing for years. But it's a fun little saying, and generally it tends to have some kind of truth behind it. So for the next few weeks, we're going to take a look at the plants that I have in each category, so first year, second year, third year, and above, and take a look at the new growth that has happened over the last year, 2, or 3. Today we're going to be starting with the first year, so the plants that I've only had for under a year. And it might surprise you how many of them have shown some new growth. It should really be like first year they sleep and they creep. So I have a couple of my plants here. These are all first year plants, so plants that I've had for under a year. And I'm going to do a running tally on either side of the screen. So on this side, I'll have plants that I have that do follow the adage of first year they sleep. And over here, I will put a tally of ones that have shown the growth. So first we have this Peperomia prostrata, which is a string of turtles. I've only had this for a couple months. I got it in 2021, so this year. And all of this up here is new growth. There's some new growth down in here. Everywhere there's little tiny new little petals. That's where the new growth is. And I just featured this in a care video a while ago. This is the second string of turtles that I've had. The first one I accidentally killed. So yeah, this one definitely has new growth on it. So this is my butterwort. It's a really cool plant. It's a carnivorous plant. You can see right here there is there's a fly or a bug on there. So bugs will land on these and the leaves will disintegrate them and it'll use those bugs as energy. So I've had this one almost a year. I got it last summer when my gnat problem was at its height. And this one has done really well. So all of these new leaves up here are new growth. And you can also see down in here, I don't know if I can get the light, down in there's a whole bunch of little babies that have grown, and those are all new as well. So this one has done really well, and it was growing even last summer as soon as I got it. So this one also doesn't really fall in that first year they sleep category. So this is a mini orchid, and this is actually the most recent plant that I've purchased. It hasn't done anything new. I've only had it for a couple weeks, so I really didn't expect any new growth. In my experience though, orchids are pretty medium growers. Sometimes they put out new leaves really fast, other times they take a while before they start to show new growth. So this one is definitely a first year they sleep plant, but who knows, in a few months it could be pushing out new leaves. So the next plant that I have here, these are my MARIMO moss balls. I've got 2 of them in here that I got in November of 2020, I think. I've had moss balls for years. Before I was into plants, I used to have fish tanks, and I had these moss balls in the fish tanks. I just spilled water all over the table. And they are really slow growers. So these ones are definitely a first year they sleep plant. The next one that I have here is a mini jade, or jade compacta. I had one of these for years and it just died out of nowhere, so I got myself a new one, I think at the end of 2020. And I'm actually really surprised with how much this has grown. The first one that I got didn't grow a whole lot in the few years that I had it, but this one has already grown almost as much as that old one had in a few months. So you can see all of this is new growth. All of the tops of these are new growth. I'm gonna have to turn it around because they're all facing one way. But it has grown a lot in the few months that I've had it. And I'm also really happy with the growth because mini jades are one of my favorite jades. So next we have one of my favorite purchases, one of my favorite recent purchases, and it is this HOYA OBOVATA variegated, which is turning into a splash, which is exactly what I wanted. I got this, I think at the end of last year or the beginning of this year, I'm not sure which, but it has already put out a lot of new growth. So this whole leaf actually, right here, is a new leaf that just ballooned up in the last week. And I even have a new one coming in right over here. There's a little guy coming in there. So yeah, this one definitely is growing a lot faster than any Hoya that I've had before. I'm actually really surprised because I've had Hoyas that haven't done anything for years, but this one is just constantly putting out new growth and new vines, and so I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to see where this Hoya goes. I've also got this SANSEVIERIA, I think it's a FERNWOOD. I can never remember what it's called, but I think it's a FERNWOOD. And I got this sometime in the winter. I think it was around Christmas time as well. And it's also putting out a bunch of new growth. I actually have to repot it because it's starting to push its way out of this nursery pot. But there's a whole bunch of new growth all around the base. And it's doing really well. And Sansevieria are one of those kind of funny plants because sometimes they'll take forever to grow and then other times they'll just sprout a ton of new growth out for you. So I have this ARALIA. I think it might be a MING ARALIA. I'm not quite sure. I don't remember. And I got this sometime in the winter too. But it hasn't really done anything. I'm not sure if this at the top is any new growth. I'm not sure if it was already there when I got it. It hasn't died though, which is good. But it hasn't really done much either. I've only had this one for a few months though. Hasn't really been a full year. But right now it's definitely sleeping as it's trying to like acclimate to my house. But in time I'm sure it will grow. Right now it just looks so weirdly shaped. I've also got this jasmine, which I got in February, I think. So I've only had this for a few months, and in the few months that I've had it, I've managed to kill most of it and grow a whole bunch more of it. So you can see right here, there's a new vine coming up, and these vines are kind of really annoying because they wrap around anything they can touch. So I've been trying to train it around this hanging pot to kind of like go around there, but literally every day I have to come up and unwind vines from growing right up here to the hanger. It's ridiculous how fast this thing grows. In the summer, I'd like to put it outside because they're supposed to do well in full sun. But yeah, I have to water this thing like every couple of days, and I have to constantly look for vines and move them out of the way. So yeah, this one definitely doesn't follow that rule of first year they sleep. It's also a like first year it leaps kind of plant. Next we have what is probably the saddest of my first year plants. So I got this in August of last year, so at the end of last summer. It's an elephant ear, Alocasia, and it's not doing too well. So when I first bought it, there were more than one leaf. There was 2 or 3 leaves on this. I think this is actually the newest leaf. All the other ones died. And now it's just this one single stalk leaf, and it's actually a really small leaf. Like, look at my hand in comparison to the size of this leaf. So it's pretty sad. So while it did grow a new leaf in the first year that I had it, it also died considerably in the first year that I had it. So I don't really know where to put this one. Maybe I'll just put maybe I just won't even include it in the ticks because it's a pretty sad elephant ear. So the next plant I have here is my olive tree, and I actually got this last summer, so we're approaching a year with it. I really love this plant. I don't know why, but it's become one of my favorite plants, even though it looks pretty spindly and sad. But it didn't do anything for a very long time. I got it at the end of last summer, and then all winter long it dropped leaves, and I thought it was going to die. I almost threw it out a couple of times because it just looked so pitiful. But I kept it, and eventually some new growth started. Actually right in the middle of the plant. So this was about twice as tall as it was now, but everything on top had died. So all of this new growth started a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago, and it's grown quite a bit, and I'm so excited, and hopefully I can keep it alive for many years to come. I've also got this dark Syngonium, which is a relatively new purchase. I got this a couple months ago from a grocery store. This one does have some new growth in here. Like you can see right here, there's a new leaf growing up there. Syngoniums grow pretty fast, I've found, and they're pretty hardy. So I wouldn't expect a Syngonium to be like to sleep for a year or need a year to acclimate to your place before it starts to show new growth. So yeah, this one definitely is a grower. So these are a couple of my mini pothos, and they were actually all taken from cuttings that I did. I took them maybe in the fall, and then I planted them up in this past winter. So this one is a golden pothos, just a regular golden, and this one is a neon pothos. And there's really no surprise here that they have both shown a lot of growth since I potted them up. Even when I was propagating them in water, they were still growing new leaves. So pothos, like Syngoniums, just they grow really fast and really readily. So they definitely do not abide by that rule of first year they sleep. It's more like first year they leap. So I've also had this PILEA peperomioides for about a year. I think I got this last summer, so it's coming up on a year that I've had this, a full year. And it hasn't really done anything, which I'm actually kind of surprised at, because I had one of these a couple years ago, and it grew so fast in the first year that I had it that it eventually just died because it grew so fast and I couldn't keep up with the fertilizing and the watering. So when I got another one of these, I kind of expected it to grow at the same rate as the first one. But this one hasn't really done anything. So there's a couple of new leaves coming in here, but that's really it. And I've been really surprised at how slow this PILEA has been when my other experience with PILEAs have been that they grow so fast. So I'm gonna put this PILEA. Well, PILEA peperomioides wouldn't really follow that whole first year they sleep adage. I'm definitely going to put this one in a first year they sleep because it's done absolutely nothing. I bought it like this, and this is how it's been for a year. Okay, so I've also got this Ficus Audrey, which I got last fall. So it hasn't been a full year, maybe about like half a year since I got it. And it's put out some new growth. So this leaf right here is new growth, and there's also a new leaf on top that just came in the last few weeks. The new growth is a lot smaller than the old growth, and it's kind of crinkled. I think it could really do for some higher humidity than where I have it. And also, I've only really had it over winter. So this leaf grew in the middle of winter. This leaf started to grow in the beginning of spring. So it's got some ways to go before it starts to perk up and really show some good growth. I've also got this Monstera Adansonii, which is a relatively new purchase. I got it the end of this past winter, early spring, and it has put out new growth as well. So this leaf is a new leaf, and there's a new leaf right behind here that is still all crinkled up. I think it just came in this past week. Yeah, there it is. So these plants are kind of weird. They're not my favorite plants because they look, I don't like the holes in the leaves. I know that most people want Monsteras for the fenestrations, but these ones just look like, I don't know, someone took a hole punch and punched out my leaves. But it's still really small. I'm sure once I get it to grow a lot bigger and put it on a moss pole and have the nice big leaves, I'll like it a lot better. That being said, though, it has grown quite a bit, and I've only had this for maybe a couple months, a month or two. So yeah, definitely a grower as well. So next we have this succulent arrangement, which I did a couple months ago, maybe a month ago. A lot of these cactuses are new. I just got them in February for my birthday. My sister got me a whole bunch to fill out this arrangement. Some of them, like this one back here, and these bog cactuses in the front, and I think that one right there, are old. I've had them for 2-3 years, but all of these ones are new, and they haven't done anything. And I'm not really surprised about that. Cactuses are very slow growers. I've had these ones for about 3 years, and they haven't done anything. So they're really slow growers. I don't really expect much growth from these. So it's not really surprised that they definitely hold true to that first year they sleep adage. I've also got this Ficus benjamina, and I got this, I think it was in the winter, maybe in the middle of the winter. So it's been like 4 or 5 months since I've had it, and it hasn't done anything. It hasn't pushed out any new growth. Well, okay, that you can see right up here in this little, at the end of this stem, that there is just now new growth coming out. But I'm going to say that it is a first year it sleeps just because I haven't seen really any new growth in this, and I haven't seen any change really. It's just kind of been like this since I got it. Nothing's died, nothing has grown. So yeah. And I don't know much about Ficus benjaminas. This is my first one, but I know that they can get really big. And as with most of my plants, I want it to get really big. So next we have this Monstera Peru, which I think I got this in February or January or something like that. When I first got it, these two were the only leaves on it. This one was cut in half. All of the leaves were cut. I don't know if they can be propagated by leaf cuttings, and that's what the nursery did. But these were the only two leaves on the plant. And this one came in not too long ago, maybe like a week ago. So yeah, just like the Adansonii, this plant is actually growing on me. I didn't like it at first because I didn't like how the leaves looked like reptile skin. Like it looks like reptile skin, and I thought that was kind of weird and gross. But it's actually really growing on me, and once I get this to be a bit bigger and put it on a pole, I think I will really like it. I mean, I have a long way to go with this and the Adansonii, but still I think this will turn into one of my favorites because I'm actually, the color and the texture is actually slowly growing on me, so who knows. So the last plant in this first year they sleep video is actually one of my favorites that I purchased this year, and it's actually one of my favorite plants. It's the TETRASPERMA RHAPHIDOPHORA, or the MONSTERA GINNY. I like this plant better than the Monstera deliciosa because, I don't know, just the green and the look of the leaves, so nice. I love this plant. And it actually has new growth on it. So there's two plants in here. You might remember back to a plant haul video that I did where I rescued one of these that was in an area in the nursery where they were giving out plants that kind of like, you know, weren't doing too good and needed some help. So that vine, that like one plant, is this one, and it hasn't put out any new growth, and it actually has lost a leaf since I got it. This is where the new growth would come in, and it's actually pretty brown and shriveled, so I don't really know. It's grown a little bit though. It's a little bit longer, so maybe something will come of it. But I bought this other plant to add into it to make it more full. And this plant is only about a month old, and both of these two leaves on the end, so this one right here and this one, are new leaves. This thing is constantly pushing out new growth, which I'm so excited for. Eventually, once this gets a little longer, I want to propagate it and I want to put it on a moss pole, just like the Monstera Peru and the Adansonii. So I'm really happy to see new growth, and really fast new growth on this one. And yeah, that brings us to the end of my first year plants. So as you can see, our tally is kind of in favor of plants growing in the first year. So I guess we have disproved that whole adage of first year they sleep. Next week, I'll be putting out the video for the second year plants. So if we follow along in this saying, first year they sleep, second year they leap. So we should see plants that have a bit more growth, or I would expect to have a little bit more growth than these first year plants. Thanks again for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for similar content. On Mondays, I post videos about houseplants. And on Fridays, I also post videos about houseplants, and reading, writing, photography, art, and any other generic interests of mine. As always, you can find my social media links in the description below. Also, you can find links to H&H Games, the board game company I've helped create, and our debut board game, Season of Heroes. You can also find the Amazon links to my fantasy series, A Chronicle of Crowns. Thanks for watching, bye!